Smart 24, driving business.
Yes, we'll be back from the break exactly 9 a.m. This is Smart Means Business. I'm Andrew Barigi, host, and definitely heading into the last hour of this particular show. Now, this is the business where we get in touch with some of the experts that are, much more experienced in the different fields and specific fields according to their area of expertise. And at this point in time, some time back, I happened to get in touch with a soil scientist, and of course, and part of the key discussions that we're looking into is how do we climate change resilient agriculture. In other words, a smart agriculture which is resilient despite the disparities in the climate participation. Well, at this point, let's get into this discussion with the doctor, the soil scientist himself. Yes, we'll be back from the break. Smart Means a Business. I'm Andrew Barigi, and of course having very amazing discussion here and taking a look at some insightful aspects of sustainable agriculture. Now, as we see that the world grapples with climate change, environmental degradation, talking about food security concerns, sustainable agriculture has definitely become a critical component of ensuring a resilient and productive food system. Now, Uganda is, with its rich agriculture potential, is at the forefront of this very movement. Now, joining me today is John Sekamwa, a technical agronomist at Yara, Uganda, with over 14 years of experience promoting sustainable farming practices and soil health. Now, John's expertise has been instrumental in shaping Uganda's agriculture landscape, and his passion for environmental stewardship is quite very inspiring. Now, of course, in this conversation, we shall be delving into the state of sustainable agriculture in Uganda, taking a look at strategies for improving soil health and resource efficiency, and we shall be also looking into climate change mitigation and adaptation in agriculture, empowering farmers through extension services and technology, policy reforms, and future directions for sustainable agriculture. And of course, I get ready for a thought-provoking discussion on the transformative power of sustainable agriculture in Uganda. It's a pleasure to have you, John.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
good morning.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Okay.
I'm happy to be here. Good morning to the viewers. Yes.
All right. Now, maybe I want to start with a very interesting question. Can you just, in like okay, I know this is too big, but in like 5 minutes, try to break it down. Can you share your journey to becoming a technical agroeconomist? And what inspired you to actually specialize in soil science?
Well, that's 5 minutes. I should say is a very small time for me to
Okay,
describe.
just try to wrap it up briefly.
But in short,
but I felt like I would love people to know what interested you in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, now growing up, we come from farming communities.
Yes.
As you know, 80% of our agriculture, our farming or businesses are agriculture-led. So, in that sense, I've also been a small boy holding a hoe. From the time I was born, the only thing that I knew that we would do at home is farming. So at that scale, it was mainly conventional. But going to school still, I found a course there. Okay. And I think I would really relate with everything that teachers were trying to explain. And then I think it was the easiest course for me to understand because I was practicing and at the same time studying. So they tried to polish me, and then I really got motivated. I did it in my O-level and A-level, and then still I was lucky that I was taken by government to do a 4-year course, Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, in Makerere University, and still that wasn't enough. I got another scholarship. Yes, another master's degree in soil science. So from that time, I've been trying to improve my skills in agriculture, trying to support a number of farms. I've worked with research institutions.
Okay.
I've worked with private companies that are dealing in agriculture, like where I am. But above all, I've worked with farmer institutions. You can call them cooperatives. All over the country. So my 14-year experience in working with the diverse people in research and private companies, you can call them PPPs, has really helped me to understand the different areas of farming in Uganda and how they are handled, because they are really diverse in terms of systems, management and implementation.
I'm actually, when I hear this, I'm curious to know, you have some farming you're doing.
Yes, correct.
Are there times let me say you plant something and it doesn't come out?
Yes.
As a soil, because I know, being a soil scientist, before you plant, you've made research on the soil, unlike other people who don't have the knowledge.
Well, yes, it is very good to admit that not everyone is always perfect in whatever they know or they do. Yes, there are moments that, you fail, but then whatever has brought the failure is beyond your control. For example, if the weather is not good, you've managed your land very well, you've tried to do timely planting, all the practices are in place, but there's no moisture. Okay. You cannot really, succeed in that, except if you're doing something extraordinary. But sometimes we work with farmers to show them that even the people who are very nice, the people that you respect so much, they also have hassles. They can fail in the same field, but then the main issue is, what are you learning from the failure? Okay. So that's what we try to explain to people, so that they can improve their realities and then prepare for those shocks and see how they can recover. Or become resilient.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the common common soil health challenges that are faced by many farmers in Uganda, and how can this be addressed?
Well, in Uganda, I would say that the biggest percentage of Ugandans are small-scale farmers.
Farmers, exactly.
And those are the ones who are doing what we call conventional farming.
Exactly.
You can call it traditional farming or industrial-scale farming, whereby they are using hose, they are using high amounts of chemicals, too much of the fertilizers, too much of the chemicals, very high improved varieties, and sometimes they don't know how to use these chemicals or these inputs. So the question is, as we see that we are grappling with effects of climate change, and this is mainly because of us, anthropogenic activities, human activities, what we do is the direct contributor to the climate change or global warming. Okay. How are we saying that we improve that? So in that case, most of the farmers use the hoe, but when we are trying to regenerate or restore the degraded soils, because that is where we are as Ugandans. Most of us
restoring degraded soils.
We degrade our soils, but then of course you will hear that we are no longer harvesting a very good yield from my farm. Okay. And that is because of the practices or activities that you've been doing on your soil that have led to degradation. So degradation has 2 or 3 things that you can think about. One, the biological factor of soil is affected. Because we are defining, if we are defining soil, soil is a component of physical, chemical, biological factors, water and air. So if the balance is not there, then you degrade it. So if you have inputs like fertilizers, chemicals that you're adding to the system, are you using them judiciously? How are you trying to see that you're benefiting from your piece of land so that even your grandkids can benefit from that piece of land? That's called sustainability. Okay. So when we are looking or trying to train farmers, for example, for us as Yara, we do not only sell fertilizers. I work with Yara as a technical agronomist. The viewers already heard that. Exactly. But we do not only sell fertilizers. We sell what we call a solution.
You sell a solution. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So a solution will always entail the product itself, how it is used, and then how you ensure that you are feeding the people sustainably without affecting the soil and the environment. So this is why we offer solutions to farmers. We don't just want to give them fertilizers. So what we do, when we have farmers buying our fertilizers, we know that these are the segments, because for farmers we have like 3 segments. We have small-scale farmers. Those are the ones now who are misusing products, because in terms of learning, farmers learn between themselves faster than the technical people. faster than the
They learn
extension.
faster when
Yes.
they're teaching themselves.
Yes,
Okay.
they learn from neighbors. You know, what have you done in your
Yes.
field? I think it works, so they just take up. But they don't really understand the nitty-gritties of what is supposed to be done to sustainably manage that piece of land.
Okay.
So if a mistake is seen from one farm, it moves as a fire through other farmers, through farmer-to-farmer interactions. So our advocate, we are coming in to say that, yes, we know there is a problem. The fertilizer usage in Uganda is under 2 kilos per farm. You know
Okay,
that?
2 kilos?
Yes,
Okay.
per acre. So it is very small still, but even that small one, whoever is using, sometimes they don't know how to use the fertilizers. Sometimes they over-apply or they under-apply.
Okay.
But under-applying is okay, but over-application will always affect many things within the soil, and that affects the soil.
And it seems like over-application is the worst.
It is worse because, of course, depending on the formulation of the fertilizer, some fertilizers are going to affect the environment, the ozone layer. You know that heat blanket.
Yes.
We are safe on the planet because the ozone layer is protecting us from the direct sun rays. It absorbs sun. So if some of these chemicals are going to find their way into the gaseous form, they deplete that layer, and then you will have very many issues to do with health of humans, animals, and even the soil itself.
The soil itself.
So what we are coming in as Yara, we are saying, the fertilizers that we are manufacturing, from the manufacturing processes, how are we reducing what we call the greenhouse gases? In this case, I'm talking about carbon dioxide. Is one of the major greenhouse gases, and then methane. So those ones are the major gases that are coming out of factory level. Because when we are manufacturing fertilizers, most of the companies use coal. So you have to burn coal to have the fertilizers or to make ammonia. So what does that mean? When you burn coal, it is releasing fumes in the atmosphere.
Exactly.
And 30% of the fumes or the carbon that goes to the atmosphere through the fertilizer chains is directly from the industry.
Okay.
So as Yara, we are coming in and we're saying we want to get rid of using or getting ammonia through burning. So we are taking a new manufacturing process which does not involve anything like burning, but it gives us a very high and good quality ammonia. So we call that clean ammonia or green ammonia. And it will be able to, of course, we are rolling it already. So we get a fertilizer which is not going to be releasing a lot of fumes and affecting the environment. So by that, we are reducing the contribution that we do or we make towards environmental change or degradation or global warming. So now, from the industry to the last mile, still there are very many other, that's a chain. Now the fertilizer chain to the last mile. There are very many other methods or ways that lead to release or poor management of the farmers. Handling. How is the farmer using it? If we are saying we do not have a fertilizer which is going to release ammonia in the atmosphere, or we are going to use a fertilizer that has purely nitrate, which is not going to volatilization, and it's not also going to lead to leaching, because when we leach, then there is a problem, because we are wasting nutrients, and then they will affect maybe the waterways. If they find their way in water sources that people and animals are using, then there's a problem with the health. So if you have a fertilizer which is going to be acidifying your soil more, that simply means your plants will not be able to survive. So why learn fertilizers we manufacture as Yara, we first understand the crop, and then the main point is do a soil test. So that you judiciously apply fertilizers. You give the crop exactly what it needs. You just feed the crop, but you don't want to feed the soil, because when you do that, there are so many transformations that will go through.
You mentioned something. You feed the crop, but you don't feed the soil.
Yes. When you feed the crop is what you're interested in as a farmer or the last consumer, because you want to nourish your body. When you overfeed the soil, you can't feed the soil to satisfy it. When you do that, there are so many transformations that can go through the soil, and then it can lead to affecting the soil microbiome population. You may kill the living organisms, the small and large animals. You may affect the rooting of most of the crops. So in that process, when you understand all those things, you go down there to help the farmer. So if we are talking about regenerative agriculture as Yara, it is part and parcel of what we do. And it has like 6 pillars.
What are those?
So
regenerative agriculture.
Regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
Regenerative agriculture in it, you can also link it to conservation agriculture. We want to restore the health of the soil because people already are aware that climate change is around.
Exactly.
And it is us who have contributed to climate change. So if we have shocks, how can we make sure that the farming systems where we are taking these fertilizers or the farming systems that we are supporting are more resilient to the shocks that we are getting from climate change? And how do we mitigate such so that most of these systems are restored? So in regenerative agriculture, there are 6 principles that you have to look at. The first one is, if you look at the context, we have different farms. Like I said, we have small-scale farmers, large-scale farmers, and then commercial, I mean, large, small, medium, and large-scale farmers. You can call those commercial. And now I'm talking about size of the holding. When I say small-scale, they may have like 2 acres and below. If I say mid-scale, maybe 10 to 30. And large-scale is 100 plus, 1,000.
Okay. 10,000
acres. So those 3 segments have different goals. So when you are talking about the context, do you handle a small scale basing on the practices that they are doing?
Okay.
You help them to regenerate or recover their soils basing on that size that they are having. You have 1 acre. What practices are you going to do to ensure that you restore the health of your soil so that you don't affect the environment around you? What do you do? So because of different goals, the soils are different in terms of fertility, the cultures are different in different areas, the crops are different, the animals that people are keeping are different. So we are saying, look at each farm as a specific parameter. You look at it alone. Don't generalize. In regenerative agriculture, there is nothing called blankets, you know, like one size fits all. So there's no one size fits all because, like I said, when you put it in context, a small-scale farmer has different aspirations, a medium-scale farmer, they have different targets, the soils are different. Large-scale farmers, maybe they are looking at returns on investment and they pay more attention to strong practices that are going to help them keep the soil as healthy as possible. So that is the main difference. So in context, you look at site-specific management. How are you going to, what are you doing, which practices? If you're using fertilizers as a small-scale farmer, you're using your hands. So can you really give the fertilizers as close to the root as possible? Because you're always using the whole, you know, and you want something which is cheap, but it works. So in terms of precision, the farmer is helped to be as more precise as possible by being guided on where to place the quantities to use in terms of fertilizers. If he has some goats, is he taking back the manure to the field where he's doing the production?
Doing it for the production.
Yes, so something like that.
This is interesting. Yes. Tell me something. What role do you think integrated soil fertility management plays in maintaining soil health, integrated soil fertility management?
So when we are talking about integrated soil fertility management, we look at things like soil inorganic fertilizers, you integrate them with organic fertilizers. We also have cultural control methods, yes, whatever we do in our homes to see that we are restoring the fertility of the soil. So all those things around you, organic, inorganic, use them judiciously in a manner that ensures that the farm can have or can be restored in terms of soil health. You're building the chemical reserves, you're building the physical or soil structure for your soil, but at the same time, the biological processes through boosting the microorganisms are made easy. So is it very easy for someone to have a repellent just picked from their, you know, local plants within, without necessarily going to the shop? If you're going to the shop, are you going to pick a specific chemical that is just needed for that time on that crop, not just because your neighbor has? So in integrated soil fertility management, we want to say that you cannot just use one type of input to fertilize your soil. You will not just use inorganic fertilizers, you go to the shop and be applying fertilizers day in, day out. You have manure, you have your cows, add manure to your system, go and bring inorganic fertilizers, use them because now you have the organic manure. But if you have cultural practices, you can do your own pest repellent. You can make them
Okay.
locally. So all those things will help us to see that the farms are restored, and then the food security is assured. In different areas.
Maybe something from the simpler side. Are there scenarios, do we have a case scenario where soil might really run out of its fertility, regardless of whatever inputs you put into it? And how, you being in this kind of background, you may find a way to test it. But now I'm looking at a farmer who perhaps is even thinking maybe this is, some even start to say this, but yet they're ignorant about the land.
Yes.
The soil.
I should say right now, 80% of Ugandan soil is highly weathered. We've reached the end of the weathering process, apart from highland areas, where you see Renzori, where you see Elgon. Those ones are soils which can give you some more of the fertility. But areas within the central, going up towards the north, those are highly weathered soils, meaning they've reached the end of their weathering process. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
If you reach the end of your weathering process, there are so many other issues that come out. So the pH is going to be a very big factor. You will have more of the acids around your root zones. So there is what we call sesquioxides, where whatever fertilizers that has a lot of phosphorus is going to be fixed by some of the oxide and hydroxides of iron and aluminium. So when someone applies a fertilizer, they'll say, I'm not getting a response from the fertilizer. Mainly because maybe the acids are high and the soil is not easily responding. So that means that soil needs to be restored in terms of health by adding inputs into that system so that you can sustainably recover it. And it's not a one-season thing. It is a systematic way and a consistent way of restoring your soil. So you just continue adding.
What time frame are we talking about here?
Well, growing up, I know you did some small science.
Yes,
and they told you that we have what they call fallowing of the land.
Yeah.
And when they talked about fallowing, they used to tell you, okay, you leave the land untilled under bush for 2 to 5 years. Do you remember that? So 2 to 5 years was good enough for someone to say, okay, now I have some significant levels of organic matter, and organic matter plays a very crucial role in seeing that the nutrients that are applied there are retained, are kept longer, the water that comes from the rain keeps around longer, and then we don't have effects to do with pests and diseases, residual effects because of using chemicals. So the soil becomes more healthy compared to when someone is using it conventionally every other season in, season out. If you're doing one crop, you know regions, people are doing one crop. For example, if there is a region that is doing maize only, you have very many issues. It's a heavy feeder, it needs a lot of nutrients, but you're not using fertilizers, you're not using anything. A time reaches and the soil will start giving you very low yields. What does that mean? You may now start thinking maybe there is witchcraft, you know, if you're not really told. But at the end of the day, it is because whatever you harvest, you're selling those nutrients, you've mined them from your soil. And at the end of May season out, those people are forced to ban the stopper. When you ban, you're putting the environment at risk, and also you're lifting all these nutrients and piling them in one place. Because at the end of the day, you have maybe places which are in that area, and when people put some vegetables, they will see something. But what about where you pick those stovers? So the practice of regenerative agriculture should be return the stovers, pick the economic products, but make sure your soil is stored in terms of soil health. So yes, in Uganda we have unresponsive soils, soils where you can apply fertilizers and nothing happens. And then those ones are already identified, but those are very few. The degraded soils are because we've overused the soil unjudiciously without looking at the health and sustainability in terms of using it. So how are you using inputs? We are just adding. We do not add anything to the system. So whatever you're picking from the soil, you're selling it, you're making money out of it, but you're selling all your nutrients.
All your nutrients.
You're using the whole very quite often, and then you're oxidizing the organic matter. It's breaking down and releasing carbon dioxide. You're contributing to global. You're using a lot because not knowing the rest you're supposed to use, and then you're also contributing to killing the soil biodata, the living organisms in the soil. So there is a lot that needs to be understood at different segments of farmers so that we see that our soils in Uganda can recover. And still we are taking that direction as Yara. Yes.
Wow, interesting. Now, before we get into the break, there is this aspect of resource efficiency and farmer empowerment. What approaches do you recommend for farmers to prioritize to optimize resource use and reduce waste?
Yes, resource use efficiency. Those are all part and parcel of regenerative agriculture. Okay. If you're going to use resources very well, what are your goals? Now, that's the context. It's one of the pillars in regenerative agriculture. What is your goal as a farmer? How is your soil? And if you understand your soil, then it is very easy for you to know the challenges it has or the problems or the deficiencies that are in the soil, and then the tentative solutions that you can put to the soil to recover it. 2, ensure minimum disturbance. Right now, there are a few farmers who have started trying to learn that whenever I disturb my soil, I get challenges. If there is a lot of sunshine, the moisture runs out of the soil very fast. If someone has not really disturbed it, the moisture stays longer. And these are neighbors. So it is very easy for them to learn through that. So if you minimally disturb the soil, then it helps you to recover. 2, be diverse. If a farmer is going to be diverse, definitely you're doing crop rotation. You have all these many crops that you're doing, or you're planting on your crop. You have cereals, you have legumes, you have trees on the farm, you have grasses, you have animals, different types of animals, because the quality of the manure that comes from those different animals is different. It's different. A pig has different type of manure in terms of nutrients. A cow is also different from what the pig has. The goat is different. Rabbit dung is also different. So if you have a diversity in terms of crops and animals, it helps the farmer to use those resources efficiently. So in terms of labor, it is also easier and cheaper for the farmers to position or to place whichever nutrient or input in an area where there is a deficiency in terms of quantity.
You know, when you mentioned that having different alternatives of manure, so it's more like, do I also need to first understand, is there criteria before I apply, let me say this is waste from a goat, this is from a cow, this is from a rabbit. Each has a specific soil, a specific soil it's applied, or it can go anywhere, all around?
Well, if you look at our normal settings in the homes, if you're from the village like I do, growing up, all kitchen waste were poured next to the home, to the homestead. After the yard, the crops around there, that's where you pour the water, that's where you put the residue. If they've peeled the peels, they drop them there. So the fields around the homes were more fertile, and they were giving a better yield. If it's matoke, they are bigger bunches. The home, a distance, maybe like 500 meters, the bananas are suffering. So what does that mean? If you look at those infields, and then you can easily now distribute the manure all over the place, then you're trying to recover your soil in terms of health and all over your field uniformly. So you will not be able to say that now this one is producing, you know, it's performing better than the other side. So in this case, when someone can have all these animals and they've tested their soil, you have, if you segment your land into different plots or blocks, depending on the fertility. Some of us who are soil scientists, we know how to partition your soil depending on indicator species we shall find on your farm. Those ones will help us to understand the fertility, and then we confirm that in the lab. So those blocks will be managed differently, because in terms of the soils report, it will show that the nutrients here are different, the organic matter levels are this, the pH is like this.
It's like this.
So in terms of amelioration of some of those bad parameters within the soil, it becomes easier for me to give you better recommendations about managing different sites within your field.
Very interesting, very interesting. I'm still having some insight in terms of sustainable agriculture with John Sekamo. He's an agronomist for Yara. And so we want to find out part of these technicalities, perhaps which many farmers leave out, but at the end of the day, they impact profitability and returns. Well, let's take a break. And of course, I'm still returning with John Sekamo to break these matters further.
Smart 24, driving business.
We all have that one friend, always by your side for the big moments and ready to assist. He's always got his eyes on the prize and his heart in the right place. Where would we be without our BFFs? This season, enjoy all 380 Premier League games with your BFF GoTV. Upgrade or reconnect to GoTV Super Plus for the discounted price of just 90,000 shillings today. GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Are you a woman entrepreneur or a woman owning a business and looking for affordable financing to scale up your business? Look no further than the Grow Loan. Grow Loan targets female entrepreneurs nationwide. Key features include a minimum loan amount of 4 million and a maximum loan amount of 200 million shillings, a maximum interest rate not exceeding 10.5% per annum, a loan repayment period not exceeding 24 months. All Grow Loan borrowers must comply with the Grow Project environmental and social standards. Special incentives are available for borrowers that are refugees or from the refugee host communities, people living with disabilities, and women entrepreneurs from the underserved or minority groups. To apply, contact any of the 6 participating financial institutions. Contact us for more information or visit our website at www.grow.go.ug. The Grow Loan is an intervention under the Grow Project, a Government of Uganda project financed by the World Bank and implemented by the Ministry of Gender, Labour and Social Development and the Private Sector Foundation Uganda. Grow, generating growth opportunities and productivity for women enterprises.
People of Gulu, you're welcome. We are rewarding back to one of our parents who used the Momo to pay school fees.
I am Oliel Vikio Tim. I work in Manuel Junior School as the head teacher. This parent was not able to come for this award ceremony by MTN because she works in South Sudan and it's very expensive for her to come. So we are able to get the guardian who has come.
Feel very happy. Momo is good. It is not a fake program, but it is a good program.
All the schools around, we're also coming there anytime. Let our parents continue using Momo. You can decide to pay in 4 installments. We have records where schools have statements of payments to confirm payments.
Together, we're unstoppable.
This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family. Be a leader. Be magic.
Smart 24, driving business.
Yes, we'll be back from the break. This is Smart Means Business, our business insight, and today we are discussing sustainable agriculture. Well, agriculture is not really something easy. When you interact with John Sakama, you get to realize that actually there is a lot that needs to be done and there is a lot you need to know. You need a lot of training to know how best you can yield the best out of your seed. Well, now, John, very interesting. Now, I want us to get into the climate change mitigation and adaptation. And I want us to see that how do you think climate change affects productivity in Uganda, and what strategies can farmers use to adapt to this?
Well, climate change. What do we look at in Uganda to say now we have climate change?
What do we look at?
What should farmers look at?
Exactly.
To say now I think there's climate change. It's not just a word, but these are things that are happening. First of all, if you have rains coming at times when you don't expect them, you think you're going to have them in March and then they are coming in April.
April.
And then, you know, the planting dates are from March, maybe 10th to March 20th or end of March, and then there is no rain. So what do you mean? You know, how does a farmer think? So because of the practices that we do in our farms or in Uganda, they directly affect the emissions that we have that are going to contribute to climate change or global warming.
Okay.
So in Uganda here, I can talk about landslides.
Landslides, okay.
Why do we have landslides? Why is it that the soil structure is so loose? So like I was talking about previously, if you don't keep your soil, if you keep your soil bare, then you're removing a lot of things from it through direct sun rays.
Okay.
If, for example, the organic matter level goes down because it is being broken down, and then you're releasing the gases into the atmosphere, then your structure is in a way affected. The soil structure.
The soil structure.
Yes. So you will have issues to do with landslides and you know, and all that. So the stability of the soils reduced because of how we manage the soils.
Okay.
So yes. So in highland areas we have the parent rocks are not the same. The rock materials are not the same.
Not the same.
So when they are weathering, they go through different processes to give you the soil that you're going to do or to plant your crops on. So how are you managing that soil? Are you planting trees? I think we've cut trees more than we've from 1993, I think we've lost close to, is it 15% of our forest cover?
Okay.
And we're still losing a number of trees, partly because people think population is increasing actually. When the population is increasing, we want to open up more land for farming. And then if it is still increasing, people want to have settlements. So that means that we are expanding into the small Uganda. The land size in Uganda is not increasing, but the population is increasing. So that means, what does that mean in terms of food security? We have to, people have started intensifying food security. But when you use these inputs like fertilizers, agrochemicals wrongly, then you're affecting the soil health, and then you're also degrading the environment in a way. So for example, if we look at last season, and this season, and then we look at last year. Last year we received rains late. The whole of August there was no rain. Then we reached around September, we got some little rain. Then it started raining towards the end of September. It crossed into January. January is always a dry month.
Exactly.
So if people planted timely, that means the harvesting was affected because there was too much rain and they did not have really that time to harvest. So the crop was lost from there. Because if you are using machines, the machines cannot go because the ground is very soft. Yeah, and then if it is a farmer who is having like 2 acres, the laborers are not going to be able to pick the crop, the product from the field. So soil climate change is serious. It is affecting our water bodies. It's affecting the diversity of species that we are having. But we are also the major contributors to that. The swamps have been depleted. These are places where we sieve water that is going to be used in different areas because that's groundwater. So if we are affecting the environment through chemicals, through fertilizers, through cutting down trees, through doing one crop season in, season out, without losing inputs judiciously, there's a problem. So what can we do? What I'm saying is, if you have a farm and you want to get the best out of it in terms of productivity or production, then you need to have integration. That's the first thing.
Integration.
Yes, irrespective of the size of the land, integration is key. You have some animals, you have the crops. But the crops, you need to have a diversity of crops, and you use different cropping systems. People can do crop rotation. Today in this small section, you put your legume. Next season in that same section, put a cereal. You know, change like that. Key to this, you know, back to the system. Try to recover. Get the fertilizer. Yara is giving you a fertilizer, which is good. We are now looking more at the nitrates, not the ammonium. Not the ammonium theme, because it is going to acidify soil. The nitrate is what the crop needs directly. So if I'm applying my nitrate to the ground, is the crop going to pick it immediately? Or I'm over-applying? So don't over-apply. Use the inputs judiciously. Make sure you both the physical, chemical, and biological parameters of your soil. then you will have very good and sustainable production in that system.
Okay.
Secondly, you can because for people who are in highlands, you can do all that, but it has to be like a concerted effort. You know, if you're managing like a watershed, you know, you can't do it alone. For example, on a hill, one farm is on top of a hill. There is another farmer who is in the middle, and then another one at the foot. And we have erosion. How do we manage? Because all those are, if you're going to cut all the trees, if you're planting trees, which trees are you going to plant? How much carbon are they picking in the atmosphere? How are they cleaning the environment? So are you disturbing the soil? How are you disturbing it? Do you know how much you're contributing to global warming? Do you know how much gases you're releasing? So when a farmer is trained on what they have and the practices they do, and we see that, it is very easy for us to our soils in a very short time. And then global warming should be history. Uganda will become a pearl again because we are running away from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, can you share some successful climate change mitigation adaptation strategies implemented in your work?
Yes, the first one, like I said, we are now using more our fertilizers. We are manufacturing the nitrate. We are now running away from the ammonium form because ammonia has two issues. When you have too much sunshine and someone has applied fertilizer, then it can be released in the gas in the atmosphere as gas, and it will contribute to that global warming. When there is and you know it dissolves, then it releases acids that are going to increase the acidity of the soil, and we know most of our soils in Uganda. So if you are going to add a fertilizer which is going to increase the acidity, then the roots cannot survive. They will not perform very well. So we are, as Yara, we are taking that direction. That on top of giving you a solution which is well formulated, which is well balanced, inside that solution we have a nitrate. And then if we are looking at phosphorus, we have different patented manufacturing processes for different nutrients. For example, phosphorus. Phosphorus, if you over apply it and then it is eroded into streams, you are going to kill marine organisms. So what we are saying is, if you're going to have a phosphate which is very soluble and then the acids, because I said our soils are acidic, the acids are going to fix it. That means the roots will not be able to take it out. So we have those different two forms of phosphorus in our fertilizers. They are amylase, where we have the one which is immediately released for the roots to take, and the another form which ensures sustained release of the phosphorus. And that's a patented method only for Yara as a fertilizer company. So that means no one can own that process. It is ours, but it is very good. So if you find people overuse synthetic fertilizers and they are eroded into streams or waterways, then they are organisms. You know, there is life inside. We have fish, we have, you know, algae, we have fauna and flora inside the water. So if you kill that, in most cases you will see something green layer on top of water, which is maybe more or less stagnant. So it's because the oxygen will be depleted. If these fertilizers find, or chemicals find their way into waterways, they will use up, and then the oxygen will not be able to access it. Then they will die. So in terms of that, the fertilizers that we are manufacturing, ensure that we are increasing the water use efficiency for the fertilizers. We are increasing the nutrient use efficiency for these fertilizers on the crops where they are applied, so that we are not having losses or excesses that are going to find their way into streams or affect the soil biodata or physical and chemical processes.
Very interesting. Now, there is something here. I believe every region in this country has a particular crop that grows best in their soil. And sometimes I find it disturbing. For example, when people are given seeds of a specific product, but these, a specific plant, but these plants are coming from different regions. Let me say this. Some are coming from the east, west, south, north, and they are supposed to go back to their respective places, regions where they stay, to plant that crop as an initiative, perhaps by government, for them. They're given seeds. Don't you think planting the wrong crops, for example, if bananas don't do well in the north, why should I plant them there? There are specific commodities that grow there. There are specific crops that grow in the east. Can we say that due to the desire of making too much profits, the commercialization aspect of agriculture, and we end up planting the wrong crops in the wrong soil, has it also led to reduction in that soil's productivity?
Yes, not only even wrong soil. You can plant the right crop
in the wrong soil,
in the correct soil, but the soil is not. It's not sufficient with nutrients.
Okay.
You get me? So, and you know, farmers are very wise. When you give them something, and then it's just part of a full package. For example, if they get seed alone and there's no fertilizer, they will just plant the seed. So what happens when they plant seed? If the soil is depleted, the soil was already degraded, and the seed is an improved variety of seed. Improved varieties of seed will need inputs. They need fertilizers. They need agrochemicals. Used judiciously to get that output that the person who released the seed tells the farmers. So if a farmer plants such a seed in the ground and then they don't harvest what they were told, then there's a problem. They will say, this one has just degraded our soil because we did not get the 20 bags, the 30 bags that we were told would harvest at the end of the season. Reason because the farmers did not really get a full package for management of that seed. But government is wise. They have technical people. Of course, they will not take a crop which will not work in a certain area. The only issue is if other factors are kept tissue culture is not GMO. I'm just picking the same genes from a plant and then I'm giving a healthy plantlet.
There is nothing, no chemical.
You're not adding any gene because when you're talking about GMO, you're trying to fuse genes from different organisms to get a different offspring. So in Uganda, that law is not there. So I don't want to speak about what we've not really passed as a law in Uganda. So we have biotechnology, we improve the crops through tissue culture and other processes of biotechnology, which is good. And of course, the farmers will get the most out of that when they plant the products from that. So, but that debate is not a Ugandan debate for now. But of course, if it comes handy, when the government, assesses that, then it will be easier for us.
So should we say there is no person in Uganda that is planting genetically?
I know
not single person.
I don't know about any of the people who are doing that here.
Okay.
What I know, say we have improved varieties. If we have improved crops, it's not that they are changing the crop completely to be something else. And of course, those debates have been around, and I don't really want to dwell much on those because now that's on a different level of policy and all, you know, all those things, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, because we balancing the aspect of commercialization and yet commercialization and conservation.
Yes.
At the same time. Well, I think as we wind this up, any final remarks for the farmers out there in relation to what they need to know in the season we're in? What are those activities that are so crucial?
Yes, farmers, I want to urge the farmers that Yara, we have all nutrition solutions for all at different stages, and these are well-balanced fertilizers, formulations, both granulated and liquid fertilizers. We have a very big distribution network in Uganda. We have distribution competence trained to the farmers so that they know how to use. So we have market promoters who are seasonal. When we are at peak, now like at a time like this one, bring them on board in different areas of the country where we think our fertilizers are used a lot, so that they support these farmers through trainings and also supporting them through showing them demonstrations of how to actually get the best out of the fertilizers when they apply to the crop. Yes.
All right, and that's it for today. My guest this morning have been with John Sekamo, an agronomist from Yara, and we'll be breaking down the aspects of the sustainable agriculture, how best climate resilient agriculture, of course, climate change being part of the key discussions here. So whatever he's been explaining, all has been addressed in line with that. Just in case you just joined us and you missed this discussion, you can go to our YouTube channel, Smart24 TV Live, and catch this discussion. I believe it's quite creating impact into this sector. And that's it for today. Have yourselves a very wonderful day. I know it's a very interesting morning. Till tomorrow, have yourselves a wonderful day.